It's Anthony here. Just thought I'd tell you about some exciting new things that are happening with LGBTI conversations in 2024. You may have noticed a brand new intro, so don't change your podcast channel. You are still on LGBTI conversations. Also, we have a semi-regular episode called Charlie's Queer Books. Every few months, Charlie will let you know about some of the best queer novels and books that you should be reading for 2024. So without further ado, on with the show. Welcome to Season 3 of LGBTI Conversations.
There was always a sense that I was different.
And she kind of just reassured me with real life examples that that's not how it was.
It's taken a while to unpack it all because it's a weird thing that has to come out.
I wasn't 100% sure I was lesbian.
And one of my kids fell out. And I'm working in the maternity set. Families are a great thing, but I have one now with my husband being gay because it was on TV when I was growing up. Shouting 246 gay is just as good as straight.
Pressure queer youth are taken care of.
I've been mistaken for a man ever since age 20.
And yet back then also you had that freedom to express yourself in these places.
Wait, so like all of these people are LGBTQ?
You're listening to LGBTI Conversations with Anthony Doig. On today's show, our next guest won the 2016 The Voice Australia. As an only child in an Italian family, he faced the struggles of coming out to his family as gay and didn't think he had what it took to make singing a professional career. Alfie Arcuri, welcome to LGBTI Conversations.
Hey, Anthony, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Now, you grew up in Camden in Sydney. For anyone who doesn't know where that is, that's in the southwest of Sydney?
Right, it's about 50 minutes from the city. So I grew up on a farm, and so I had a very different upbringing to what most people used to. I always surrounded by family and animals and vegetables, and it was good. Yeah, they're still out there as well, which is nice.
So you are from good Italian stock. You have an Italian heritage.
That's right, yeah. Second generation Italian or third. My grandparents were born over in Italy. So I guess the influence of like the farms and the vegetables and everything I just mentioned came from grandparents. They all migrated out into Camden like 70 years ago. And my grandparents were always market gardeners. I've always grew up on the farm and, very close relationships with all my family, which is nice.
And how did you find your childhood growing up out there?
Look, it was, I think like any childhood, it's great until you reach puberty and you start to feel the pressures of life on you, I think. So it was, I had, I like to think I had the best childhood, like I mentioned before, like growing up on the farm with my grandparents, my cousins, and I just remember it always being fun and easy and always surrounded by love and food and yeah, it was nice. So I guess it wasn't until I reached puberty that, things started to shift for me in my life.
And you came out to your family at the age of 24. How was that process?
Oh, it was very difficult. I can't believe that was 12 years ago now.
Time flies.
I feel like I'm stuck in a time warp. Because I tell people it was like 5 years ago. That's a long time ago now. Look, it was really difficult because I felt like I had a lot of expectations on me as the oldest male grandchild, and my dad's only son, and Catholic upbringing, go to a Catholic school and Catholic family. We went to church every week, and I had this pressure that I guess I mostly put on myself, but it also came from my environment, and the coming out was probably one of the hardest things I've done in my life. Yeah, I think it was the build up to it was more traumatic than the actual coming out, but that's definitely not easy.
It's interesting you say that about being the only son and also growing up in an Italian family. I know I have friends where the emphasis is put on the boys, and the boys need to, I suppose, carry on the family name, and they're kind of the prodigal child. So I could imagine you being the only boy, it would have felt a lot of stress around that, finding out that kind of like guys as well, that would have been a difficult time.
I mean, it was, and I guess it was really hard for my dad and my mum, because when you've lived a life and raised a certain way, think certain things, and have certain values and beliefs, to know that your child is, different to that. I know, I always knew that would be a bit of an adjustment to my parents. But at the same time, like the way they responded to it and the way that they quickly learned and I guess re-educated themselves on what family is and what life should look like for, people. Like I think it really surprised me the way that they evolved. It's not an issue at all now growing up. In fact, my parents are excited to see, when I'll finally one day bring extra grandkids into the family. Like it's in the beginning, I guess for them it was like not possible. Like they didn't really understand how, it could work. Like for me, like my mom's initial thought was, I might be a grandmother now, and now she's always on my back, asking, when are you going to get a partner? When are you going to have kids? And crazy to think how people's ideas and perceptions can change and evolve.
And it has definitely changed, because being gay now doesn't mean that you're going to be a lonely old bachelor. You can get married, you can have children, you can have a normal family life like any other heterosexual couple. So we can't get out of anything anymore.
No, right. I know, which is nice. Like I think we've come a long way from when I was younger, but then probably more so from when my parents were younger. Like I can't imagine what it would be like being gay then. I actually imagine it would be similar to someone being trans now to what it was to be gay then. Like it was like so taboo. And
yeah, that's exactly right. And I think the trans people are kind of where we were 30 years ago. But if history is anything to go by, we can stand behind that part of our community and help them get to where we are today. And that would be great to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in 2016, life took a big change in direction for you. You won the Voice, and you were on Team Delta Goodrem. Was being a singer ever in your...
Never. I know people don't really seem to understand how this could be possible. I never sang, I never aspired to be a singer. I was always obsessed with music and, certain artists growing up, but it all just sort of coincided with my coming out, I think. I guess maybe the music was always there, like, because I did like singing. Whenever no one was home, I'd, sing around the house or in the shower. But I was always very shy about it. And then when I came out, I feel like I was almost given like this gift of a voice. And it's crazy how it all just happened so fast. Like I call 27 my peak in my life, which is probably not a good thing because usually when you peak, you just go downhill from there. So it was like craziest year of my life when I won The Voice. Like it was the kind of stuff that I would watch on TV and think it could never ever happen to me. Like I remember watching Idol religiously and Nancy Kalia and Guy and all these artists on the show, and I remember I would envy them, their courage, like getting up and singing, and I always felt music. Like it always affected me. And, I remember getting goosebumps watching, Guy sing or Anthony sing the prayer, and never in a million years did I ever imagine that I would be on the TV where someone would be watching me and potentially thinking similar things,
So how was the process of getting onto the show?
It's not easy. Like I remember they started Instagram auditions the year that I auditioned for The Voice, and around that time I just started posting covers on my Instagram page, because prior to The Voice, my sister's wedding was the first time that I sung in front of people, and after that I kind of got this confidence and I started making covers, and then I saw that The Voice opened Instagram auditions, and I thought, it's not worth it to just send one into their inbox. And I remember I sang Callum Scott's version of Dancing on My Own, and I sent it to them, and then I think a couple of weeks later I had a call from the Voice producers, and next minute I'm at the warehouse auditions, like in front of all the producers, and I think it was about 2 rounds of that, and then the next one was the blind audition. So it was quite a few stages in front of the blind auditions that you don't realise happen, but all pretty crazy. I still remember being in the room at the auditions at the warehouse, like right before the blind auditions, and it was probably like 100 people like on the stage, and I remember thinking, God, someone here's going to win this show. Never in a million years did I ever think it was going to be me. Crazy, like the odds.
And it must have been pretty daunting as well, going in there with all these producers, watching every move you make. And as you were saying, that you didn't really think that you were kind of a singer, you just enjoyed singing and you felt the vibe from the music.
Yeah. I mean, I think I put less pressure on myself then as a singer than what I do now, because now it's my job. Whereas then I tried to enjoy it, you know, because I never thought that it would go anywhere. So I just thought, I'd always just do it. And I got very nervous every time, but it was like this addictive adrenaline that I started to chase, you know, after I felt it at my sister's wedding, and pretty crazy.
And you were part of Team Delta, and Delta's a pretty amazing person, and she's a great singer. So you must have learnt a lot from her during that process.
Yeah, I did. And she was so hands-on as a coach as well. So I was really lucky to have her and be mentored by her. And, you know, she invited us into her home. And, you know, even after the show, like, we've maintained, you know, quite a good relationship. I mean, I haven't spoken to her for a little while, actually, but I have her cat. She built to her boyfriend with my guitarist for a while. She's one of the few coaches that I think actually invest, like, into their artists, not just in front of the cameras, like outside as well. And I know if I ever had questions for her, I could ask her, like, almost like a mentor outside of the show too, which is good.
And she's such a genuine person. It's not all a show. And I think that's one thing that people are quite surprised about with her, is she's just a loving person who is happy to help.
Yeah.
And it obviously goes to show on that show as well. She was more than happy to help her team that little bit extra.
Definitely.
So talk to me about the process of writing music for you. Where do you start?
I always start from a place of honesty, I guess, and what I'm feeling and almost what I need to let out. And I guess I've learned over the years, I mean, my songwriting, I think, has evolved, because in the beginning it became like this outlet. Everything that I had bottled up for, you know, the last 25 years, I had so many stories to tell, and I didn't really ever know about this outlet that I could use. You know, I guess I'd always written, you know, notes and diary entries, but learning the ability to turn into music was probably one of the greatest gifts that I've taken out of this whole experience. And over the years, I guess songwriting evolved, and I've also learnt to be able to part ways with my songs and to give them to other people. And I've had people, you know, reinterpret my songs and stories, which has been amazing. But yeah, generally I write what I'm feeling and what I'm going through at the time. And, you know, whether that is like heartbreak or love or anger. One thing I need to learn is how to write happy songs, because I've struggled with that, because every song I seem to write seems to have some sort of heartbroken undertone.
It's interesting you say that, because so many singer-songwriters do write about the traumatic or painful parts of their lives. But there's something in that, because people can connect to that on many levels. And I once heard an artist say, if I was always happy, I'd have nothing to write about. And I don't know how true that is, but I think it must hit a note somewhere, because people do love the songs about torment and the challenge of life and love, and when things don't go quite right.
I think that was Adele, wasn't it? That person that said that? I remember reading her.
I think, you're right there. I don't think she's written a happier album yet. Her last one even was probably more so. Yeah. People seem to love them.
Yeah, it's true. There's something really beautiful about turning like this postcard moment from your life. I remember when I was stuck in Italy at 2021, I was in Russia for this music festival, and then I couldn't get home because of COVID. But I had this little moment where I had this 3-week love affair with this Spanish guy. And I remember at the time, before leaving Australia, I was in this rut from my last breakup. And, you know, I had this idea that, you know, monogamy didn't exist and I'd never find love again. And then I meet him. And, you know, not only did he change that for me, but it just ignited this fire inside of me, like, to write again. I wrote all these songs about him when I was in, you know, I traveled to Sweden, I was in Romania, I was in all these different countries writing songs, and they're so beautiful, but to be able to do that and to create those little moments in time and then to have people kind of connect with them and reinterpret them later, which is nice. Like my first song, If They Only Knew, like I'm so proud of that song. It's the first song I ever wrote, and it's a song that still to this day, like I watch the YouTube video, you know, still gets thousands of views a day, and so does the song on Spotify. And people, the comments, like it's crazy to see how people interpret the song and how they relate to it, and I find it so really like heartwarming, and it's one of the reasons why I love doing it so much.
And that is a brilliant song. I know it is on high rotation on mine. And the thing is too, I really like how so many artists who are gay or lesbian, when they write songs, they still say him or her, depending on what sex they are. They always say the opposite. But I really love how you're not afraid to say him. And that's really important, especially for people out there who are part of the LGBTI community who for instance, is gay and they're in love with someone or they're feeling what you're singing about, but then the artist will turn around and go her or him to the opposite sex. And it's like, well, no, we want something ourselves. And so I've got to really congratulate you there because you're not afraid to say it. And it doesn't happen that often.
That's one thing I was really adamant about with writing my songs, because I remember when they gave me my winner's single on The Voice, which to this day I still can't dance. But I remember hearing it, and the lyrics were like about a girl and taking off a girl's dress, and I was just like a bit dumbfounded because everyone knew that I was gay, and then I kind of felt like I was doing a disservice to people in the community because I was at that point I was out and proud, and I made it a conscious decision, I guess, to moving forward be completely honest and transparent with my music, because growing up it was hard to find songs that I could relate to and that had male pronouns and love songs about men, and I make sure with all my music I never filter anything.
And that's fantastic to see. Do you think that the industry as a whole has got a bit of a challenge with?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's getting better. I think the whole TikTok generation of music now, so everyone's a singer, and there's millions of people releasing songs and genres. There's no like back in the day when I was in high school, I remember there was you'd be in genre periods, where R&B music was the music of the moment, with Chris Brown and Craig David, and then it'd be like a punk rock phase. Whereas now, with Spotify, genres are endless. You can listen to any music you want. There's people releasing any genre that they like, and I think there's room for everybody now, which is nice. I like that anyone can do whatever they want these days.
Pretty amazing modern technology that you can download any song from any era about anything almost, and it's just there and you can listen to it and enjoy it. Yeah,
and also anyone can release music. I think there's something crazy like 60,000 songs a day are released, or a week or something like that. I think it's something more like a day. It's crazy.
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah, I know. It's very competitive, the music industry.
I'll say. Now, in 2017, you wrote a song in support for the Yes vote in Australia. We were going through the plebiscite.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that.
Well, that song was called Love is Love. And I don't know, I just remember feeling really empowered around that period. And I felt like I had, a platform to say, to tell an important message. And also I knew that I, had the opportunities to be performing it around everywhere. And, I wanted to create like an anthem for the community and for people. And that song, even to this day, it's people, finding it and there's this big gay remixer that remixed it around the time, plays it even now, at big, huge events around the world. And, it's found so many little places in people's hearts around the world, which is really cool because it's exactly why I, wanted to create the song. So, yeah, but it was really special.
Now, Eurovision, I know that for us in Australia, Eurovision wasn't that big, but then all of a sudden, it seems like over the last few years, it's just blown up and anyone who's everyone has gone on it. It's just gone next level. So can you tell us a bit more about Eurovision?
Oh, look, I feel like I'm slowly edging my way closer to somehow being on that stage. Eurovision, I've always heard about it and known of it, obviously, because I'm Italian and my grandparents have always watched it. But it wasn't until I came out and, became more part of the community and my friends all watched it. And I think it was the first year Australia participated with Guy that I really started to pay attention and got into it, almost like a sport. And then, there was Jess, and then I think it was Dami, and that's when I was like, oh, Dami's year was my favorite, so far. And then they did the first Australian selection. So, and that's when I got asked to be a part of it. It was really exciting. And that year Kate won, but, ever since then I've been, trying my hardest to align myself with it, because I'd love to be a part of it one day, even if it's not for Australia. I don't mind. I was in San Marino this year for their national selection, and unfortunately I didn't make it through. This rock band did in the end. So yeah, I'm edging closer. I've had a song in Eurovision. So one of my Cyprus release, I wrote one of the songs for them for one of the years. Cool.
So I think you're right. Guy Sebastian kind of bring it to most Australian people's attention. I think before then, as you were saying, unless you are in Europe, it was kind of in the background. So is that something that pretty well sends your career into another level, do you think, once you perform on it?
I don't know. I think it definitely has the potential to do that. Like I've seen some singers from certain countries that their careers exploded. Like Maneskin, who they won a couple of years ago, and they're Grammy nominated now, and they've performed at the Grammys and MTV Awards and all these things. And Sheldon Riley is one of my closest friends, and he represented Australia last year, and I know that he says I think he placed 15th, and that's still you still fly into Europe for Eurovision parties and Eurovision performances, and I think it definitely opens up doors and also broadens your potential reach to audiences, which is essentially what you want as an artist. And one day I hope it will bring me to that stage, because I'd love to.
I'm sure if you keep performing fantastic music and writing songs, I'm pretty sure, I'm not a clairvoyant, but maybe in the next 18 months, I'm pretty sure I'll see you on that TV.
I hope so.
You were also lucky enough to be a part of Pride in Sydney 2023. It was huge. Yep. You actually performed in that.
I did, right at the tail end of it, because I missed most of it because I was in San Marino for the Eurovision selection. So I was lucky to come back and perform big stage up on Crown Street. I performed with Samantha Jade, and I did my own set as well, which was cool. It was like, atmosphere was just like electric. It was, especially when I was staying with Samantha, it was huge. Like, it was such a great feeling. And I hope they somehow managed to like maintain that kind of ambience, I guess, every year, like closing down, Oxford Street, and it was just really fun. Like, I think it was great. And I'm sad that I missed the early weeks of it, because, I heard that it was incredible. So yeah, lots of new people around, and
yeah, it was pretty amazing time. And even the parts you did see, as you were saying, the atmosphere was crazy. But if they could put some of that into Mardi Gras as a normal thing every year, maybe extend it, maybe put some more live shows, because just goes to show people love it and they will support it if it's out there. And it's great exposure too for artists and singers and all kinds of people within the community. So I think it's something that Mardi Gras should really look at in the coming years for sure.
Oh, also, not only that, it's great, like you said, the artists, because it's continuous work for 4 weeks for musicians. And it was like, when I got back from Italy, I was gigging almost every day. Like, it was exhausting, but it was great, especially after COVID, where the industry was kind of crippled. I just felt like there was this new sense of energy injected into the industry and into live entertainment, which was really nice.
Now, you've got a new song out called Love is a Dangerous Drug. Again, another amazing song. Tell us a bit about the story behind that.
Song is part of an EP, which is also called Love is a Dangerous Drug. And it's like a bundle of songs that kind of, they create this little moment in my life of, breaking up with my ex, and also the unraveling of my relationship. It all kind of happened while I was in Berlin 2020, I think. It was just before COVID, like I think it was around December. And I just remember my relationship, just all these things that were happening back home that was getting fed to me by my friends that my ex was doing. And it just, all happened at the same time. And I was at a writing session, because I was over there for songwriting, and I met with this producer, and I just started regurgitating everything that I was feeling. And he was like, why are you with this person? And I was like, I don't know. I wrote the song, and it was kind of, that particular song made me realize that, the relationship was doomed, and it was just, I was blinded by this love that I thought was real, but in reality it wasn't. Someone that loves you doesn't treat you that way, and that's, I guess, sorry, I go off on a long tangent, but that's basically how that song came about.
Well, as bad as a relationship was, by the sounds of it, he did give you one thing. He gave you a great song. So you get something out of everything.
Thank you.
Now, if you could go back and tell your younger self anything, what would it be?
I like this question. Oh, God, I guess I felt so generic, but as a kid, like, I never thought anything special would happen to me. I thought my life was doomed. So I just tell myself, you just wait and see. There's some pretty crazy things happening in, the next 20 years, and your family are going to love you. Your sisters love you unconditionally. Like, also give your parents a break. kind of preempted my dad hating me when he knew that I was gay, and it kind of affected our relationship. So I'd probably told my younger self to give them a bit more credit because I'm pretty lucky.
Anything but doomed for sure. Your life is amazing, and I'm sure it's only going to get better because you're going to get on Eurovision. I can see that.
Right.
And you're going to find
too.
Prince charming as well, so don't worry about that. That's definitely in the cards.
I hope so.
And thank you so much for everything you do for the LGBTI community, and also for writing great music, because somewhere out there is someone who's going through what we've all gone through, coming to face with their sexuality. And if they listen to your song or listen to a podcast who is part of the LGBTI community and helps them succeed to the next level where they need to be, it's so worth it. So thank you very much for that. And thank you for coming on LGBTI Conversations today. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Anthony.
If you love listening to LGBTI Conversations, make sure to follow. This will help other people find us much easier. And also, make sure that you never miss out on an episode. Thanks for listening to LGBTI Conversations with me, Anthony Doik.